Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talented Bitches Radio. I know like 3 of you might be wondering what I've been up to in the 2 years since I put this project on the shelf, and basically my other art ventures got so busy that this fell to the wayside, and I have no better excuse than that. That's what happened. But I have been doing a lot of really cool stuff I'd love to tell you guys about. I did 2-hour-long comedy shows, all with new material. I've been doing a lot of painting. I've done dog portraits for clients. I've done a lot of personal paintings that I'm really proud of and really love. I've been making t-shirts, postcards, prints, and other products that I've been selling here in Merida, which will be offered through an online store. Me and my partner Tits have in the works. That's coming up in the future. I've been designing logos, skateboards, and other fun stuff for businesses, and basically I'm a busy bitch. I'm a busy bitch, but I also have met a lot of talented bitches along the way, and I'm really excited to start bringing their stories back to you guys. So I'm really happy to be back to this project, and I will keep it going. I will. Another exciting development is that we actually have sponsors this time. Look at us. Sponsors. Talented Bitches Radio would like to thank LS Studio, your one-stop shop for home decor and fun stuff on Paseo Monteo between Calle 41 and 43 in Merida, Mexico. If you visit Merida, head down to LS Studio to shop for cool souvenirs to take home. And if you own a home here, you can find amazing things to pimp out your pad with. That's LS Studio on Paseo Monteo between Calle 41 and 43. We would also like to thank Broken Spoke Beef Jerky Company. It's not easy to say fast. Broken Spoke Beef Jerky Company. These guys have started making delicious beef jerky right here in Merida, which as a Wisconsin girl, I can't tell you how much I'm excited about this. It's delicious. It's wonderful. Look for them on Facebook. Look up Broken Spoke Beef Jerky Company, and you can see where and when they'll be selling around town, as well as put orders in for home delivery. So it doesn't get much better than that. And then lastly, I would like to give a shout out and thank you to Dave Harms from the band Tinfoil, who was kind enough to put together our opening music. So Talented Bitches is back, bitches, and I'm really excited about it. I understand the name of the show might be a little off-putting to some people, and I have gone back and forth and considered changing it, but ultimately I decided, nope, I'm sticking with it. For those of you that don't know the history of it, I started doing comedy with my dog Blossom, and we were talented bitches. She was a female dog, and I was, and always will be, a bitch. So after she died, I do understand that the joke gets lost a little bit, and it can come off a little bit more offensive than I meant it, but I still love the name. It reminds me of my time with her, and I'm sticking with it. Also, I think it's kind of interesting to note that through my overanalyzing of it, I finally came to the conclusion that not only is it a name that means a lot to me, but the original definition of a bitch is a female dog, and how people can take 2 of the most beautiful things we have on this earth, dogs and females, and turn it into a negative word is absolutely ridiculous. Women don't want to speak up and be strong because they're afraid to be called a bitch. If they're successful, they're labeled bitches. Speaking up, being strong, and being successful are also positive things. So, I hope this show inspires everyone, men too, to embrace their inner bitches. I don't really think that this is breaking news. You should all know this by now, but we have a mess on our hands in this world, and it's going to take some good-hearted, strong bitches to clean it up. So, welcome back to Talented Bitches Radio, and I hope you enjoy going on this journey with me while I look for people that are out there changing things for the better, and sometimes listen to the stories of the people that were out there making things worse, but can shed some light on why they did what they did and hopefully help us all do better in the future. All right, enough with the warm fuzzies. Let's get to today's guest, Mr. Frank Culata. Frank's got a great story to tell you guys, but just to give you a little bit of a background, Frank was part of the Chicago mob, or as Frank taught me, it's correctly called the Chicago Outfit, that controlled many casinos in Las Vegas. He was an enforcer and the leader of the Hole-in-the-Wall gang, which got their name because they were masters at drilling holes in walls and ceilings to do their robberies. The 1995 film Casino was based on the guys that Frank was working with. He was a key consultant on the film, and the character Frank Marino, portrayed by actor Frank Vincent, was based on his role in the outfit. Frank also had a part on screen as the hitman. Joe Pesci's character, Nicholas Nicky Santoro, was based on Frank's childhood friend and lifelong business associate, Tony Spilotro. I love a mob movie as much as anybody else, you guys, but when it's over for most of us. For my guest today, the violence, crime, and code of the underworld was real. He lived to see the drama play out to its bitter end, and he's here to tell the story, which is pretty incredible. Frank eventually had to cooperate with the government to save his life, and as he'll explain to you, he became a government witness that was not only key in bringing an end to the mob's hold on Vegas and beyond, but through his decision to come clean and share what he knows, he's become a mafia historian and has shared his knowledge through 2 books. The first one is titled Culata, The Life of a Chicago Criminal, Las Vegas Mobster, and Government Witness, and his latest book is Hole-in-the-Wall Gang, In My Own Words, both of which he's worked on with Dennis Griffin. Frank's willingness to share his story publicly in his first book led to an end to Paul Scharf's 27-year wait to find out who killed his father and tavern owner Ron Scharf, along with tavern employee Patricia Freeman. That story has been documented in the book Murder in McHenry by Keith Bettinger and Paul Scharf. It's another interesting twist to Frank's story that I really recommend anybody interested in learning more look into that book, because unfortunately that part of the story only gets touched on briefly in our discussion. You are about to hear a good chunk of Frank's story, but I really recommend that you read his books, or if you're in Las Vegas, you can even go and meet Frank and hear his stories in person. Frank does mob tours, which you can book through vegasmobtour.com. Also, if you're in Vegas September 27th and 28th, you can catch the mob convention and meet Frank, as well as Tony Montana, police agents that were involved in bringing them all down, authors, and many other interesting people. Information on that is available at mob-con.net. You can order Frank's books by going to themobmuseum.org. The Mob Museum is amazing. If anybody who's interested in mafia history, if you're in Vegas, definitely put that one on your list. It's not a bunch of mob relics in glass cases. It's like walking through a movie set, and you can stand in a lineup and shoot off a Tommy gun and see the St. Valentine's Day massacre wall. And it's really done well. So check out the Mob Museum. And they have an online store where you can order Frank's books at themobmuseum.org. The museum has also kindly offered to send Talented Bitches radio listeners autographed copies of Frank's books while they're in stock. So if you'd like a signed copy of Frank's book, you can go to the Mob Museum's website, order it, and email them telling them you're a Talented Bitches radio listener and would like to request an autographed copy. Frank's actually such a nice guy, I bet he'd probably even go down and autograph a few more if you guys sell them out. So I guess that is it. I will put all the information that I've just thrown at you below, and let's hear Frank's story in his own words. Enjoy the interview, guys. Welcome to Talented Bitches Radio. I'm Mel Blossom, your host, and I'm here at the Flamingo Hotel and Casino with Frank Cullotta. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it so much. So, I guess the best way to get into your story is to start telling it. You were born in Chicago, which is close to my hometown, Milwaukee.
Sure is.
So what was growing up like for you?
Well, you know, I was born and raised, and it's called Grand and Ogden. That's the neighborhood. We called it the old neighborhood. because eventually we all moved out of the old neighborhood. We moved to the suburbs. Anyway, I was born and raised in this neighborhood around Grand and Ogden. And in that neighborhood, there was a bunch of immigrants, and there was a bunch of gangsters. Now, my father was a gangster. I could say he was a gangster. And I used to see he was always dressed nice with the fedoras and the top coats. And the people he hung with, they all wore top coats, smoked cigars. I was fascinated by these people. So I am a product of my environment. At this time, I was too young to realize that these were gangsters, murderers, burglars, armed robbers. So this is all I knew at this young age. But my father moved us out of there, my mother and my sister. My brother wasn't quite born yet because my mother was 9 months pregnant. My father was killed. We moved to on the west side, around Grand and Harlem, which is probably around 25 miles away from where I was born and raised. My father owned an apartment building there, and we all moved into this apartment building. It was left to him by his family. So, as I said, my father died when I was 9 years old, so that's as much as I know about my father. I just know that he was well respected, but I come to find out that my father was a wheelman. That's a getaway driver. And all his friends always talked highly about him. And I remember a couple times, even as a kid, when I was to ride with him in the car, he used to always want me to sit in between his legs and steer the car. Well, I'm a car fanatic, and I'm still a car fanatic. And I seen my father get in fights on the street and pull out guns. But to me, I was still too young to I knew it was violence, but I didn't know how violent of a person he was. So after his passing, which happened in an automobile chase, the police were chasing him, and his car hit a bus, and he was killed in the car. So my mother was 9 months pregnant at the time. And so my brother actually never met his father. I actually wound up more or less being like a father to him as he grew up. Well, I didn't get along in school. I always wore glasses. As a kid, I had glasses. When I was a child, at 19 months old, I had double pneumonia across my eyes. So the glasses were to give it strength in my eyes and keep my eyes straight. Well, at that time, if you wore glasses, you were a freak. People would think you were a freak. So I had to be tough. I didn't realize that I was that tough until I had my first fight. And I did a pretty good number on the guy. But I always seemed to have problems because of these glasses. Anyway, I met a guy along the line there. You know, I used to steal out of paper bags. I couldn't. Paper bags back in them days, you'd drop a nickel in and pull a paper out. It was on your honor to buy a newspaper. Well, I'd wait, and on the way to school, I'd chinny up to a pole, stick my hand in there and grab the money. Finally, the guy got onto it, the guy that was his route, and he chased me. So that was the end of that route. So my mother, I didn't want to go to school, so my mother says, you got to do something. You just can't, you know. She wanted me to either get a job somewhere or go back to school. So I wound up shining shoes. And I used to shine shoes on the street, which seems to be my favorite street, Grand Avenue. And this is how I ran into my partner at the time, who later on in life became my boss. And his name is Tony Spilotro. And Tony Spilotro became the boss of Las Vegas, Nevada area. Anyway, we got into confrontation, him and I, and he wanted to know what I was doing on his street, shining shoes. And I told him I don't see any name on a street sign that says Spilotro. He said, well, what's your name? And I told him. He said, I'll be back tomorrow. And I said, I'll be here. So the following day I was back, but I didn't see this Tony kid. He was short too. About a week later, I run into him, and he says to me, I see you're still shining shoes on my territory. I says, yep, and I'm going to keep on doing it. He says, let me ask you a question. He says, I was home, and I was telling my brothers about you. And my father overheard it. My father said, find out from this boy, Culata, if his father's name was Joseph or Joe. Because if it was, you got to be friends with this guy, because his father saved my life. So he asked me that question, and I told him, yeah, that was my father, Joe Culata. So he says, well, looks like you and I are never going to have to fight. We're going to be the best of friends. So with that, Tony and I shined shoes and this and that, and we stole cars and all this stuff that I thought was a normal way of living as a child. So eventually the schools caught up with us, and they put us in a school. It was called Montefiore. It was on 14th and Halsted, which is all black, the neighborhood. So we had to take a bus there. So after the first couple of days, I told him, I ain't taking no more buses there, Tony. I just would steal a car. So we start stealing cars and driving them to school every day. And every day we'd have to fight with all these black kids because it was probably 99% black in the school. Well, these blacks thought that we were white kids and we had money. I guess this is the way they were brought up and raised to think. So every day we'd have to fight. And the jobs that we had in school, instead of learning from a book, they put us, it was a vocational school. So I was in a carpenter shop and he was in a metal shop. And one day I come out of the schoolroom and Tony was in the middle of the hallway down there a ways, and he was surrounded by black guys. And he was fighting one in the circle. So I could see that the other ones were moving in on him, so I ran and I grabbed his long pole. And back in them days, you needed a pole to shut the upper windows in the school. So I grabbed the pole and I ran down the hall, and I swung the pole at the group of blacks that were standing in front of him, bounced off their heads, and then I went in like a spear onto the guy he was fighting, because the guy picked Tony up over his head and he flung him against the wall. So when I stuck him with the spear, he took off. So Tony and I took off. We ran out of school. We got to Tony's house, and Tony's brother said, what happened? Why are you home? Tony said, well, he told him, explained it to him. Vic said, Tony's brother's name was Vic. It was one of his older brothers. So we went back the following day, or 2 days later, in Vic's car. And Vic had a .45 gun with him. So we went back, we drove on the playground. There was a playground there, a little bit of a playground. And right next to the playground, there were double doors that led into the cafeteria. So Vic let us out of the car. We opened up the double doors. We ran to the cafeteria, and we found the leader of these guys. His name was Jackson. So Tony and I run in there. We pull a gun out, and we kidnapped the guy. We took him out of the thing, drug him to the car, got him in the car, and we pistol whipped this guy for about 15, 20 minutes. We pull up to the schoolyard where we put him in the car, and we flipped him out as we were going. Something like you would see in a movie, throwing somebody out of the car. So then we took off. So a couple weeks later, we went back to school. We were told if we don't get back to school, that we were going to go to reform school. So Tony, I don't know how he got out of it. I think he used a hardship thing with his father. Me, they wind up sending me to reform school. So I went to reform school, and I had to spend, I was about 4 or 5 months in reform school, which is a bunch of cottages where a bunch of kids live. And each one had a cottage parent. They were called parents. They were husband and wife. They were mean people. And they had a good job. I mean, they lived there, they get fed there, and it's all they do is scream and holler at us. Our jobs in the place, my job was that I had to wax the hardwood floors with candle wax in a buffing rag. Get on your knees and wax these large rooms.
And what age are we talking here?
Probably around 15, something like that.
Okay.
And I was and I had a fight in this cottage with a black guy. And he was like looking down at me while I was waxing, polishing the floor and talking tough to me. Again, they mistake the glasses for weakness. So I told him to get out in so many words. I call him so many different words. And he said he was going to kick my ass, and I jumped up, and I said, well, let's do it. So I whipped his ass. And then I was sitting on top of him, punching him in the face, and he's telling me, let me up, I'm through, I'm done. So I let him up, and he ran off. So now somebody heard about that. They moved me to another cottage, a little bit restrictor, a little tougher guys. Again, I didn't start the fight, but I wound up in another cottage. In this cottage, I met a guy. His name was Red Martinique, big Indian guy. And everybody was scared of him. Well, we became good friends. And they had a cottage where if you were getting in trouble, they'd bring you in this cottage, put you in the basement, and they'd get a fire hose. And they would shoot this fire hose at you, like in a shower room. And I never forget the guy's name. His name was Brown. He was a black guy. He was in charge of that, disciplinary officer. And never wore a uniform. And they'd put the hoses on us. So eventually, I got a reputation in there as a tough guy. So that meant everybody was going to stay away from me. So doing that, I toned myself down, and I was able to get a good job. And they're better than waxing the floors. Well, I got out of there, and I had to graduate grammar school. I still hadn't graduated grammar school. So my poor mother signed me up to a grammar school. I'm the oldest one in the class with all these kids. So I graduated. I was only there not even half a year. And they had graduation day. Well, I wasn't allowed to go. I had to pick up my diploma the day after graduation because I was too big. So I didn't care. I got the diploma.
Yeah.
So then we went to high school. Tony and I hooked up again. We went to high school. And in high school, same thing. Fist fighting all the time. So, and then we started hanging in the snack bar. They had snack bars adjoining the high school. So instead of going home, you could get your lunch in one of these snack bars. So we started hanging there. And that was no good. By this time, I had a car, and it was an old car. And it was like, I think it was a 1950 or 49 Oldsmobile or something like that. Old. And but it was a good car. Listen, at that age to have a car, I was like the talk of the town, big shot. But I still needed money. And you can't make money. Your mother, what's my mother going to give me, $5 a week, $10 a week? And I don't want to lean on it because she was a single mother, working hard. And she was a waitress, worked very hard, good woman. By the way, she visited me all the time I was in that school.
She did?
Yeah. So I got in trouble with a stolen car one day. My car broke down, I went and stole a car. And I got away, but the cops knew it was me. So I got busted. They seen who I was driving. They tried to catch me, and I got away. They couldn't catch me. But they caught me the next day. They went by the house and arrested me. And I went to another reform school, which was called St. Charles for boys. You're a little older there. And I went in there, and funny enough, I ran into this guy, Jackson, the black guy that we kidnapped and beat up.
Yeah.
Well, when he seen me, he told every black in that school over there, By the way, all the cottages were named after presidents. These homes, we call them cottages. And he told everybody in there who I was. So, needless to say, everybody kept their distance from me. But I had to get a better job in there. So I applied for the job working in the powerhouse. And I was able to sleep in the powerhouse, which means I didn't have to sleep in the dormitory or be involved with all the other kids in the school. I had my own job, my own room. They used to bring my food over there. It was wonderful. It was, for being locked up, it was great. I did 9 months there. Then I get out, and who did I bump into this?
This is more of like a juvenile hall kind of situation.
Well, yeah, they're juvenile, yeah. They're still juvenile.
Yeah.
I think it was about 16, 17, something like that. Big guys then. There was a lot of big guys.
Yeah. So
I get out, and I got this other car, mine now. My mother used some money that my father had in stocks, so stocks and bonds. So she said, "This is your money your father left it to you. Go buy yourself a car." So I did. I went out and bought a 98 Oldsmobile. It was an old car, but it was a nice car.
Yeah.
And I'm in the backyard of my house, and I'm waxing the car, washing it. I see this guy come walking on a thing, big, tall guy. And he said, his name was Bob Sprodak. Anyway, we wind up giving him the name as Crazy Bob. That was the nickname we gave him, Crazy Bob or Mopey Jesus. because he moped when he walked. And he convinced me into robbing taverns with him.
Into robbing taverns?
Taverns, saloons.
Okay.
He says, it's easy money. He pulled out a package of money. He said, it's easy money. I said, well, what do I need to do this with you? It's just a set of gloves. He said, I got the guns, the mask. He says, we could go stick up taverns. Well, if you ever read my book, Culata, I said how my first armed robbery went down, which was quite funny. And I never told that story until 25, 30 years later, or 30 years later, because it was embarrassing at the time. Now, remember, I wore thick glasses.
I read this
You put
story.
me in a dark place. You put me in a closet with no lights. I can't see shit. So we run into the place. He's got a shotgun. He throws a blast in the air. Everybody hits the ground. This is a stick-up. So I'm standing by the door, and I can't see shit in there. I know there's people in there. Get on the floor, I yelled. They all laid down, except for one person. So I'm screaming, I told you to get on the floor. My partner, I look over at him. The reason why I could see him, because he was by the bar and it was lit up, the back bar. And he's looking at me like, who are you talking to? And I'm screaming, get down, you mother effer, you know.
You can swear on here, don't worry.
Okay. I said, get down, you motherfucker. So I run over there, and I hit the thing that I thought was a human. It was a coat rack with a fedora on it and the top coat. I was so embarrassed, and he's laughing. People are looking up at me. So I get to the back, the front door with him. We take off at it. I think we made about $300. So we used to do 2, 3 of them a night, different areas.
Wait, back up. I want to know how long that story haunted you with the gang.
He never, I told him, I says, if you ever tell anybody this, I says, I will kill you. I says, I'm telling you right now. He says, I'll never say a word about it. I promise. I says, okay, Bob. He never said a word about it. So I'm the first one to ever reveal it in my first book, Culata.
Wow.
I just never revealed it. And, you know, if I'm going to write a book, I want it to be honest and truthful.
Right.
So I wrote everything in there that was corny, that made me look stupid, made me look bright, whatever.
It's what makes you human.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
you know, as some people go to college educated to be an accountant, a lawyer. Well, I educated myself on the streets to be a criminal. And I was a damn good criminal. But my first experiences weren't. It's like anything else. You got to crawl before you walk.
You got that learning curve.
That's right. So then I learned how to, through the years, I learned how to shut off alarms, how to open up safes. I did everything you could possibly think of, criminal-wise. I've never done any rapes to any females, or kidnapping. Back then, if you took a person, say you had a home invasion, you go in the house when people are there, and if you moved them from one room to the other, that's called kidnapping. You can't remove a person from one room to the other. If you stuck them up then it wasn't considered kidnapping. Now it is. Now it's considered kidnapping.
So back then, if you came into the room, you'd just like have to just tie them up or keep them where they are.
Lay them down, yeah.
But if you move them into another
room, nowadays it would be called kidnapping. So that's 20 years. Back then it wasn't called kidnapping, so we could move them from one room to the other. If that were the case back then and I got busted, I'd still be in jail. Because there was so many places that we ran in, like in the jeweler building in Chicago, the Muller's building. We made a $500,000 jewelry robbery there. Of course we had to move the jewelers from one room to another.
Yeah.
So that would be considered kidnapping. So I've done so much of that stuff. But nowadays, the way the laws are nowadays, I don't see how anybody could be a criminal this day and age. You got to have holes in your head. For one thing, everywhere you go, you got a camera on you, except for the bathroom. And then sometimes you might even have one on you in the bathroom.
Yeah.
They have alarms everywhere. People put them in their houses while they're walking around doing everything all day long. So there's really nowhere you could go to get away with a crime. And the way I look, you know, I mean, I stand out. I even walk. Just, you know, you could pick my walk out. Of course, if I'm doing a crime now, I don't wear glasses anymore because I got more confidence in myself. You know. So I did a lot of wheelman stuff. I was a wheelman, you know, getaway driver.
So before it became like super organized crime stuff, it was more like just you and your, it was unorganized crimes.
It was unorganized. So you get smarter as you grow older, which I did. And I've learned how to, back then, how to pick locks, to open up a lock without using a crowbar on the door. I've learned if I can't get through that door, I've learned how to go through the ceilings, or the rooftops, and go into a place, even if they had alarms, because they didn't have motion detectors then, or sound, or go through the wall. We picked up that name, the Hole in the Wall Gang.
Yes, and I want to get there, but that's further in the story. So let's get, you met Spilotro, and you were doing...
we were doing robberies.
You were doing...
So robbery.
When did it get into where you guys were becoming, like, made men and actually...
That came down... Tony Spilotro became a made guy long before I did. And the reason why is I resisted it. I could have been a made guy probably a year after him, but I didn't want to be because I didn't want to answer to people.
Yeah.
And by becoming a made guy, and we don't use the term made in Chicago. They'd say, you know, he's a mustache, he's a stash. That's what they say. And to become one of these guys, you have to follow protocol, let's say, what the bosses want you to do. You can't drive a Cadillac, a Buick, an Oldsmobile. You had to drive a Chevy or a Ford. I didn't want to do that. I like cars.
Yeah.
I used to own 3 new cars a year. How could I live that life? So I drove Cadillacs way back. You had to be a rich man. And they used to get mad at me. And I'd say, well, I don't work for you.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a percentage of my scores. You know?
This is actually, okay, remember how I mentioned that I do like mafia history, and I imagine they don't make you go to mafia history class before you can be in the mafia.
No, there's no such thing as school.
Right? That'd be so funny. Okay, today we're studying Lucky Luciano. Tomorrow it'll be Bugsy Siegel.
But I heard they do that now.
Do they?
Some black woman I seen at a book signing recently, I heard her screaming my name, and I looked around. I said, what the heck is this? She come charging me with 2 of her friends, and she's screaming, Frank Culata, Frank Culata. I'm going, who the hell are you? And she says, I read about you. You're in one of my courses in college.
Yeah, but she's not being trained to be in the mafia. That's what like I can just imagine.
I can't understand why people would want to read about me in college.
Well,
what are they going to learn?
The reason that I think it's interesting is because the mafia has a way of being autonomous from the system that the normal person obviously can't achieve, and I think that's some of the lure and why people like the story. Yeah, like it's a world that, but if you look into it, it still has rules. There still are restrictions, like you said.
Plenty of rules.
Yeah.
The rules are, well, let me get back to Tony.
Yeah.
So Tony tells me one day, he called me Brahma. That was my nickname, Brahma, as a bull, Brahma bull.
Oh, okay.
He said, Brahma, I'm going to be a boss one day in the outfit. I said, well, good for you. He said, you're going to be with me? I said, no, I don't want to be in the outfit, Tony. He says, you already paid your dues in that $750,000 score we did. He says, I'll accept you in a minute. I said, Tony, I don't want to be in the outfit. Yeah. I'm connected to you guys. That's all I need. I'm connected. I'll do things for you, but I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to put money on the street and juice. I'm not going to go around breaking people's head because they didn't pay or muscling massage parlors. I don't want to do that. I want to do it like I'm doing. He says, pretty soon these scores are going to get harder and harder to do. You better think about it. And I said, okay, I'll think about it.
So was that kind of the lure? Is that eventually they take over the crime outlets?
Well, what happens is, if you're a thief, and say you go out and you rob somebody or something, and it's $100,000 score. Back then, if it was a $50,000 score, even if you weren't a made guy, as you say, in the outfit, you had to kick in 20% of the score to the outfit. Well, I thought that was ridiculous, but if you don't, they're going to dig a hole. They're going to bury you in it. My first experience, as I said, was a $750,000 robbery. And by the time
that was with Tony separate.
That was with Tony and his guy Joe, who became our boss in the outfit. Joe's in federal penitentiary doing life. I didn't even know Joe at the time. Just call him Joe the Clown. And I didn't know him. I met him through Tony. And there was like 5 of us, and we pulled this tremendous score in Southside Chicago. I didn't even know what it was until the day I got there. I was a workhorse. And, I mean, it was a safety deposit joint. And we had to make holes to get in there. A lot of holes. So we made all the holes, and we got in there, and we opened up all the boxes. Well, after that, Joe says, we got to kick in 20% to the outfit. And I looked at him, and I said, does this guy know what he's talking about here? Well, Tony wasn't quite connected yet either. So he says, yeah, he's a bookmaker. He works for the outfit. I said, I don't fucking believe this. So we all gave our 20% of the score, but one guy, he didn't want to do it. Needless to say, he paid the price for it. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's when Tony got himself involved. He started hanging around with outfit guys that still stole, like James Tortorella. He was Tony's boss. Tony stole with him, too. I stole with him. I hijacked trucks with him. I hijacked semi-trailers with Tony. I did many, many different things with Tony. But I just didn't want to be an outfit guy. So as time went by, I had a contract come to me. Well, it wasn't a contract. The guy went at somebody's, car blowing up and a murder and all that. So me and this other guy went and done it. And see, when you do stuff like that for the outfit back then, you were recognized. You're one of the guys. It's the loyalty they have then, Mm-hmm. So you could do most anything and get away with it. Again, I wasn't really connected. I was just an associate. Let's put it like that. I was an associate. One they liked. And then on another occasion, there was a couple guys, call it the M&M murders. That's in my book, too.
Yeah, I read about that.
And I used to stay with these 2 guys. And one particular night, one of the guys got their ass kicked. And from the 2 brothers that managed this place, the Black Door it was called, which was owned by the outfit. Paul Rica had this guy, Frank Pondolio, running the place. Paul Rica was a big boss. So this Billy wanted to kill these brothers. So I said, you know what her father is? I says, he's a baker, his father. He's good friends with Tony Accardo. He said, well, nobody's going to know we done it. I said, sure they are, Billy. You got your ass kicked there. They're going to want to find out who had a problem with these guys. So the wind-up is I went out there 3-4 times with them to kill these 2 brothers. But each time we went out, there was a girl with them, a waitress. And I passed. I said, we've got to pass. I am not killing that girl. You kill the 2 brothers, you got to kill the girl. Ain't going to happen. So the one particular night they wanted to go back there, I was in the bowling alley with some broad, and we were bowling. We used to hang at bowling alleys. And this Billy come in, and he says, you ready to go? I swear. He says, take care of that business. I said, I'm with this broad now. He said, well, okay, I'll drive her home. He said, no, where are the guns? I told him. He left. They went in, they killed 2 brothers and a girl. Well, it was like big deal then, you know what I mean? Because they kill them in a suburb that's highly connected to the outfit. And I heard it on the radio, and I said, oh, man, these guys are in trouble. Chances are I'm in trouble, too. This is what I thought, because I was associated.
Yeah, just association.
Sure enough, 2 days there, bing, bing, bing on my door, it's Tony. Tony's connected. He's an outfit guy now. He says, I got to talk to you downstairs in the basement. He comes there with this other guy that was a friend of mine, too, that I stole with, Richard Gorman. So we go down in the basement, and he tells me, you got to tell me if these guys, you were with them, if they went alone or what, or who was with them. We know that you're connected to these guys. If you don't tell me anything, I can't save your life.
Yeah.
Frankie, I'm on your side. So after about 40 minutes, I thought about it, you know, and I said, you know, it was a bad thing that they killed that woman. I said, but better them get whacked than me. It's a survival time now.
Yeah.
So I says, yeah, I says, it was just Billy and Jimmy. He said, I didn't know that. I said, I know it. I said, because I was getting gas after I left the bowling alley and I seen them come by in a work car. They took the guns out of the garage by my house. I knew they were gone. I said, it had to be them. Who else could it be? And he says, all right. He says, a couple of days, he says, I'll let you know what's going on. Next day, he gets a hold of me. He says, you got to set up Billy. I said, what do you mean I got to set him up? You got to call him and meet you. He won't meet anybody else. He'll meet you. Give him some bullshit. So he walked with me to a payphone. There was no cell phones then.
Yeah.
Call his house. His wife answered. Hey, Betty, I says, Billy there. Oh, hi, Frankie. Oh, fuck. You know, now she knows I call him. So he gets on the phone and says, hey, could you meet me at the chicken house? It's a chicken place in Melrose Park. What time? It's 8 o'clock. I got something real good. It's okay. Tony's looking, watching. Well, that's when they got Billy. They used my car, kept me in a car with another hitman. So I couldn't go nowhere, you know. Used my car so Billy seen my car there. He went inside the chicken house and he bumps into Tony. And Tony says, hey, Billy, what are you doing here? He said, I was supposed to meet Frankie here. He said, yeah, I seen his car out there. Maybe he's sleeping in it. So they both walked out and Tony grabbed him, put a gun on him, and they took him off, tortured him until he told them who was with him. And he's the one that they put his head in the vice, like in the movie Casino.
Yeah.
Because the movie Casino, I was a consultant on that movie.
Yeah.
And as Nick Pileggi would attest to, is that they couldn't have done that movie without my input. That's how important I was in that movie. I never realized it, but he told me, and so did Martin Scorsese, because I was the only one alive, and I knew everything about these guys. So that's when I got more points, which I wasn't looking to, you know, I could have, like I said, about that time I could have been anything I wanted to be in the outfit. I could have got away with anything I wanted, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to be in the outfit. Only one time did I put money on the street for him. Tony kept on driving me nuts. Come on, come on, come on. So I put $10,000 I put on the street for juice. Juice, as they call it in New York, they call it vig. Chicago, they call it juice. You borrow somebody money, they pay you 10% back a week.
Oh, okay.
So if they borrow $1,000, they're paying you $100 a week. And that could be forever. And then at the end of, say when they're running, say I'm true, I paid you the $1,000. No, you still owe me the $1,000. That's just the interest you paid. So they could pay for a month. They paid $3,000. They still got to give you another $1,000. It's still cheaper than what they charge in these places now.
I was just gonna say, did the banks they get all their
The government knew we were doing that. They closed us down because they want to make money.
Yeah.
So everything that you see, off-track betting and all that stuff, we done that, and all of that giving money out before the government knew it was wrong. Now the government closes us down, and they do it, and they charge more money.
Yeah.
Than we charge.
Yeah.
So goes the share, a wonderful government.
Oh, I know.
We were a threat to them, you know, all of them.
Well, it's like that line in The Godfather where he's, I'm not going to quote this right, and I'm going to be mad about it, but Kate is talking to Michael, and she says, well, government officials don't kill people, Michael, and he's just, really, Kate? Like, that's just...
They get away with murder.
Yeah. Do you remember the line better than me? I'll put it under the interview.
You know,
but that idea.
I probably didn't watch The Godfather until about 10 years after it was out. We weren't allowed to watch stuff like that.
Really?
Couldn't read. We didn't read them books or anything because we knew there a lot of it was bullshit. You know? And that we were, you know, you could never say, oh, I went and seen The Godfather. What? What are you rat bastard? You know, so we never went and seen that shit. But, yeah, it was an interesting life.
So I've got two questions that'll hopefully lead us to Vegas and then the hole in the wall game. The first one is just out of my curiosity because I'm from Milwaukee. I know that we had an outfit there, but it doesn't. We never get any good movies or books out of our guys.
Well, because Chicago ran the outfit in Milwaukee.
Oh, another thing.
You ever hear of Milwaukee Phil?
I was reading about him last night. Yeah.
That's Milwaukee Phil ran that town for years.
But he was
then
a
he went to
Chicago guy.
Yeah, and he give it over to these other guys. But we still controlled it. Chicago often controlled it. We controlled Iowa. We controlled that. St. Louis. Long arm. We had a long arm.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to understand this. This is so important. As long as you got government officials or state officials on the payroll, you could do anything you want to do. You need to have them. Chicago had all the politicians. The outfit had all the politicians. The Democratic machine, you want to know why? Because we would promise them they would get back in office again because we control the votes.
Yeah.
You control the votes, they get a job. They're not going to bother you. They want you in office. They want you to be a big shot, be a crook. They don't, as long as they stay in office. Judges, everything. That city, did I ever go to a state penitentiary? No. Only ones that ever bothered me in that city were the federal government.
Yeah.
They're the ones that get you.
Man.
I've had felonies reduced to misdemeanors, which is like a dream. So instead of doing 30 years, I'd do 10 months and 24 days.
Wow.
That's a misdemeanor. So that was the connections in the courts. So our connections spread out, judges, all the way to all these other states. The Senate, the Congress, all of them people that are, don't you think they were fascinated with us guys? They were scared of the Kennedys. We got that Irishman in fucking office. We got him in office. We went out and got 100,000 votes for this jagoff. And what did he do? He turned on us. He put his stinking brother in there, Bobby.
Yeah.
I don't like the Kennedys. I don't care what anybody says. I wouldn't have killed them, but I didn't care when they died.
Yeah.
Because they reneged. They were bigger criminals than everybody else. Him and his brother. The other guy, Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover, he was nothing but a fag in office. He was, they were blackmailing him too, the Kennedys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's his business what he wanted to do, Hoover. Hoover didn't want to mess around with the outfit. He didn't. He said, if we were spies or communists, he would have come after us.
Yeah.
So he put a blind side to us, J. Edgar Hoover. But that Robert Kennedy, I can't stand them, what they did, And that's Sam Giancana. That was our boss, too, Sam Giancana, Mo. And Sam suffered for that. I think probably lost his life because of that. That's what I believe.
So do you think that, the outfit was at least a little bit better about keeping civilians out of it? Or do you think that there were still a lot of civilians that were victims of the just the operations that people were running?
Well, let me say, I think I know where you're going with that question.
Okay.
For one thing, we never took somebody in that didn't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
We never gave somebody money that didn't ask for it, and we give them a warning.
Yeah.
If you don't pay, you're going to get your legs broke. Worse yet, you could get killed.
Yeah.
Then we won't get our money. But if you're going to make us look like a jerk, this is what's going to happen. We never bothered people. People liked us. The average person liked us. They all made money. As long as we were like another police force. Mm-hmm. That's the way I would have to put it. We policed our own people. If we got a guy and he was abusive to his wife and he was a nice guy, we go, hey, you got to slow down. You're making the Italians look bad over here. You can't do it. You don't get along with this broad? Get a divorce.
Yeah.
You don't have to beat her up every day. What's the matter with you? You're making yourself look bad. We're losing respect for you.
Yeah.
So we policed everybody. Legitimate guys, I have some very good friends that were legitimate. very good friends. Did I ever try to get him into organized crime? No. No, there's no reason to. You know, it just wasn't like a draft board. There's no such thing. You know?
Well, and even like when I remember reading about more of like the Lucky Luciano,
New York.
Capone kind of era, it was like honest business people, they go in, and this is happening now in Mexico too. They go in and they say, you have to pay us this much for protection. Well, I don't need protection. Well, you do now. And like,
well, you see what you're saying there, and I know what happened in that with the Italians. If you go beyond the 20s, 1920s, they were called black hands, the black hand. And if you watch The Godfather, you show that greaseball walking out. He was a black hand. There was no syndicate yet in New York because the black hand was there, as in Chicago. There was no outfit. There was the black hands. And there were a bunch of greaseballs that would muscle their own kind. They go in a grocery store. I want so much money a week. If you don't pay, I'm going to put your wife on the street and make a whore out of her. They go in barbershops. They'd go everywhere. Anybody that was making regular, legit people, they would muscle these greaseballs. They couldn't even speak English, and they were going around. They put a black hand on your door. And I never forget there was a black hand on my father's door in our house. I remember as a little kid, I looked up and I thought it was cute. I didn't know what that black hand was there.
yeah.
I said, Daddy, is there a black hand sticking on the door? Somebody painted a sign. He went out, I could see his eyes. He ripped it off the wall. The next day, there was 4 dead mafiosi, they would be, I guess, then. Black hands, they were dead. One was killed in the bed with his wife. His wife wasn't killed. The other ones were killed around Chicago, which eliminated the black hand. Then they became the 42 gang, and that started on Taylor Street. The 42 gang was 42 guys out of one neighborhood that all grew up together. Sam Giancana, all of them, their names, Milwaukee Phil, Chucky Nicoletti. I could go on and name all these guys. Sam DiStefano. That was called the 42 gang. And each one of these guys became a boss. They had their own crew of guys back in the day. And that's how they locked up all the politicians. And they start running, as we say, the outfit. Tony Accardo was the only one that was born on Grand and Ogden, which is maybe 15 miles away from Taylor Street. All right? And he was the true boss, Tony Accardo. But then he retired at a younger age. And then you had other guys going there like I just said, Paulo Rica, Sam Giancana, Humphreys, Paulo Rica, you know, guys like that. They all came in. But what's the name? Tony Accardo was the guy. Was the main guy. He sit back here. Never went to jail either.
So when did you decide to finally become officially part of the outfit?
Well, what happened was, when I got out of prison, I did a 6-year sentence. When I got out of prison, my intentions were to go legit.
Wait, you did 6 years for?
I had a sentence of 36 years, and the government, the highest amount of time I had with the government was 10 years. The highest amount of time I had with the state was 15. So the government ran their time together with the state time. So the state, they went, you know, I had a connection. I went to the parole board. They paroled me to the federal detainer. So instead of doing, I would have probably had to do 10 years and a 15-year sentence. I was paroled to the federal detainer, which is 10 years. And that means I only had to do 6 years.
So was this for burglaries?
It was for truck hijacking, a Brinks truck.
Okay.
Some guys rolled on us. It was several things, truck hijacking, several different things, four different crimes. And because some guy beefed, you know, or something like that. One we got caught dead bang on, you know, was a hijack load. And that was the only one. And one was a frame. I got framed for an armed robbery. Didn't even do it. And that's the one I got the 15 years on. I was framed. Government was pissed. Everybody was pissed because they were beating the cases. As I said, the government was behind all this shit. So when I got that 15-year sentence, I got it. It was given to me in Boone County, again out of Chicago, a suburb. Would have never happened in Chicago.
Yeah.
So Boone County was like 90 miles away, and I got framed. So I go over to the state, I get out, and I go to the federal penitentiary, which was easy. I was released in 1974, and I was on 4-year probation, parole. So when I got out, I immediately opened up an Italian restaurant. I buy the property on Clark and Addison, kitty corner to Wrigley Field. I opened up a beef stand. I owned the property right on the corner there. Now they sell what do you call it, souvenirs. If I still owned that property now, I'd have $50 million. That's what that property's worth. I got it for $30,000. I muscled the guy out of it, give him $30,000, hit the road.
Wow.
Built a restaurant there, called it the Beef Barn. Lasted about a year there, and the cops were driving me nuts. They didn't like the idea of me being legit. Son of a bitches. This is a true story. They used to break my windows that night and everything. I couldn't catch them. I mean, I tried everything. They knew the way I was moving around. Then they come and they sent someone over to break my window, just making me mad. So then I said, these motherfuckers. So I wind up opening that disco in the suburbs, River Grove. Big disco, seat about 200 people. How I got that place, I went in there with $15,000. $15,000. The guy who owned it, there was 4 partners. Joe Pepitone used to play for the New York Yankees. Joe Pepitone, great baseball player.
Yeah.
This other guy, Jolie Greeting Card, another guy that owned eyeglass frame place, and this guy Tino. Tino, the place was under his name, the license. So Tino told me about it. He said, we're going down. He says, they'll take anything. So I went in there and I talked. I told Pepitone, get out of here. He was a coke freak. He used to snort coke at the bar. They call it Pepitone Silver Slipper. So I changed the name to Spanky's, Our Gang Comedy, Spanky's. And I made it a real beautiful place. So I took the place over, and we were doing big bucks. But all the crooks at this time, I wasn't stealing either, all the crooks were getting killed. They were doing scores, and they were doing the wrong kind of robberies, and they were getting tortured and killed. And I said, geez, what the hell's going on here? And a few outfit guys were whacked. And I thought, man, this town's going to hell. They're killing bosses. You know, I mean, what? And Tony kept on telling me, come on, move out here by me in Vegas. I need you, Bram, I need you. Not right now, not right now. So finally I get busted. They busted my place. We had a Las Vegas night. Legit. Legit. We weren't dealing with cash. We were giving prizes away.
So you got busted doing a Las Vegas night in Chicago.
In Chicago, in a suburb. And it was in a suburb, River Grove. So we all got busted, and 60 people. Run us all to the police station. I had to make bond for 60 people. They were my customers.
Oh, no.
I make bond for 60 people. I had to hire a group attorney. We go to court, we catch the cops in a lie. I got connection.
Yeah.
Drew the case out. Everybody's case was beat. So I said, these son of a bitches, they just won't let me loose. They just won't leave me alone. So then Joe Lombardo comes to me and he says, you know, come on, you got to go to Vegas. Frankie, Tony wants you there. He said, this an order. And he said, all right. He says, he's your buddy, man. You got to help him out. He said, you're the only one who wants there. He don't want nobody else with him but you. And, you know, you pick out your crew through him. I said, all right. So then I moved to Vegas. And
what year was this?
79, I think May of 79.
Okay.
So I moved to Vegas, and I meet Tony. I move in a high rise there. I bought a condo in Marie Antoinette, and I come out and I had a Cadillac, you know, big deal. And
do you have a Cadillac now?
Huh?
Do you
no,
still
I got
have...
a Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
I got a little higher in the world. So they didn't make Mercedes that were decent then.
Gotcha.
They were ugly. Everything. Foreign cars were all ugly back then. So came out, I met Tony, and we talked. We discussed what he wanted me to do. And I says, all right. I said, but, you know, if I bring out these guys, I said, you know, they got to get fucking paid. We don't give paychecks on.
Yeah.
I says, it's taboo. We can't steal out here. He says, who said? I said, it's been the rule, Tony. He says, I'll get that okay. And he says, you guys could do anything you want to do. Don't worry about it. He says, but they got to do things for me when I need them. I don't want to meet them, he said. They'll know who I am because of your connection to me. So I put a group of guys together. They said there were 6 when we got busted, but sometimes there'd be 3 of us, 4 of us. We didn't always go like that. We'd need a truck to go on a robbery with that many guys.
Yeah.
You know? So in all the places that we couldn't shut the alarm off because of the location of the alarm, and there was good stuff in the house because we used to have tips from an insurance salesman. They tell us what was in the house.
Oh my God.
So we knew right where the safe was, or where they would hide it, because the people have to tell them, you know. So we'd make the entry through a wall. We started making holes in walls, and I told my partner Leo, I said, man, I hope we never get caught making a hole in the wall. I said, because there's a lot of copycats out there now that are making holes in the walls. I said, we're going to get blamed for every hole in the wall there is in Vegas. Sure as shit. Then we got the name the Hole in the Wall Gang, because we got busted making a hole in the ceiling going into a vault. You know, Bertha's, which would have been $1 million robbery.
So let me ask you this too, because it was always my understanding that, like, New York mob started Vegas.
No.
No. Okay.
That's
Correct
bullshit.
me. Correct me.
They probably were out here working in casinos. Chicago.
Really?
It's been out there since Chicago. You go back to Bugsy Siegel. They killed him in California. People don't realize it. Chicago moved right in. Took it right over from there. Marshall Cofano was the guy who took it over. That was the last guy at the time before Tony. And then when Marshall went to jail, Tony wound up with the spot. Marshall Cofano, nice guy. But in this town here, we always said it's like a fishbowl. If they're on you, they can just reach in and pluck you out. Easy to get. So that wasn't my functions out here was to make sure that nobody was stealing at the casinos, any of the bosses, floor men, pit bosses. Also get people jobs in casinos, camps. Not all the casinos, just 4 casinos we controlled. We had the Teamsters Pension Fund that the casinos would borrow from to keep them in business, cheaper than a loan at a bank. Banks wouldn't finance the casinos, so we went beyond that. We were running the Teamsters Union, and that's how and you know what? Teamsters Union made more interest, made more money than these banks. These banks they're still rough giving these people money out of banks. They're independent assholes, all banks. That's the way I feel.
Oh, I hate them on
They're terrible.
So many levels.
They're terrible. This country fucked up. I gotta get some water.
All right, let's take a break. Hello? Oh, the light's not on, but I can still hear me.
See?
All right, cool. All right, well, we just took a break. We refilled our drinks, and back to the story. So where were we?
We're in Vegas, and my function out here with organized crime. I guess when things started really going bad for me was there was this, I call him a petty Andy con artist. He reached out for me and he said he had a money scam going. And the only reason why he reached out to me is because I was hooked up with Tony Spilotro. And this guy wanted to pull a scam on some people out of Florida, the money switch. And he figured if he did get caught doing it, that he could always say he was hooked up with Tony Spilotro and me, and they wouldn't be able to fuck with him. So, because I did ask him, why are you coming to me? And he said, well, these guys in New York, in Florida, they're connected. So I brought it to Tony's attention, so I give him Tony the guy's names. He said, I don't know him. And I told him what the scam was going to be about. And Tony thought it was far-fetched, and so did I. But all in all, we were supposed to make $175,000 from it, and it was going to be all done in Washington, D.C. The money transfer was going to be in Washington, and there was also a Washington cop that was going to be part of it. It's too long to go into, but, you know, that's the way it was supposed to go down. Anyway, the guy from Florida backed off. I got mad. Tony got mad. So I blew this Jerry Lisner guy off. So I says, hey, man, you owe me some money for this traveling expenses. He said, well, I don't have any, but I do have 5,000 Quaaludes. That's a pill. And I said, I'm not a drug dealer. He said, well, if you sold each one of her $2 a piece, he said, you got 10 G. You know, at that time, you could sell them Quaaludes at $10 a piece. So I said, well, bring them over. He said, yeah, but I want to make some money on it. I said, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. So I took the Quaaludes. I gave them to two guys. They gave me the money right away because I wasn't going to sit there selling 10 or 15 of them at a time.
Yeah.
And that Jerry said, where's my money? I said, you just got fucked. How did it feel? I didn't even kiss you. I told him, right? So then he ran off like a little girl. But he had another case going, which I didn't know about, and it was in Washington, D.C. So he was in front of the federal grand jury there, and I come to find out by a lawyer that was in the room, the guy was here in Vegas, and he stopped by a restaurant that we hung at, and he told the owner there, tell Tony Spilotro and Frank Culata that this Jerry Lisner is testified in front of the grand jury about them. I said, that son of a bitch. So meanwhile, the FBI come right after that, and they hit me with a subpoena to appear in front of the federal grand jury in D.C. So I told Tony, I said, well, it's quite obvious I'm not the target. I said, because they're going to give me immunity from prosecution. He said, well, what are you going to tell him? I said, well, what kind of lie could we tell him? So we sat down, and we concocted a lie. Don't ask me what it was, but I got it across. And they let me out of the room. They let me go. But for the time being, I would imagine. So when I get back, I told Tony, now, what we got to do now is the only witness we got is Jerry Lisner. He said, you got to kill him. And I says, all right. I said, I'll get Larry Neumann, who was one of my guys in my gang. More or less a serial killer. He was bad. So he said, no, don't take him. He's too violent. So I said, all right. So I got another guy. And I performed the act, of killing Lisner. And, of course, the cops were on it right away. They assumed it was me and Tony and the FBI especially. So they were on us more and more. And I had like 3 or 4 cases going on there at the time. One was bullshit. The other one was stolen furniture, which I was moving into another house, and it was the weekend, and I needed furniture, so I told my partner, one of my guys that worked for me, I said, I got to get some furniture for this house. He said, I know where there's a place I can load up a truck for you. And I said, all right, go get it.
And it wasn't Sears, right?
No. So he went to some house. I didn't even know where the hell he was going. I just know I was getting a house full of furniture. And he came, and we loaded it into my new house. I said, oh, thank you. No money. And funny thing is that my wife's, I was married at the time, my wife's brother was stealing with some kid. And he told the kid, he said, yeah, my brother-in-law just got a house load of hot furniture. This kid was an informant for the Metro. The kid drops a dime in the phone, and Metro immediately, oh my God, we got him. Meaning Frank Culata. They raided my house, got all this furniture. So that was one beef. And the other one was, the other ones were phony beefs. I wasn't even on them. They went on me so bad they would have done anything. So I said, Jesus, each case I was on, the bond was 100 G. So say there was 4 cases, that's 400,000 in bonds. That means it cost me 40,000 cash out of my pocket. Plus, I had to help my guys out, too, if they didn't have money, certain guys that were in the crew. So we needed a big scar, and I said, well, I got one scar I've been saving. It's called Bertha's Home Furnishings. And Leo says, oh, I know the place. He said, how are we going to make it? I said, well, there's a vault in there. I says, we're going to have to go through the roof. Drop right in on the vault. I said, but first I want to go in the place. And at that time, they didn't have cameras in these places. It had sound and, you know, all that stuff in there, motion detectors. I said, I want to look and see if I could peek in the vault and see if the door is wired or if there's any sound, motion detectors in the vault. So I managed to ease over to the vault. I can't even pronounce the word. So I get in, I peek in there, I don't see any detectors in there. And I can't pronounce the word, inconspicuous. So it's very, I got a problem pronouncing it. Yeah. So you even had a problem saying it.
Yeah, I know.
Inconspicuous.
Inconspicuous.
So I managed to see that it was clear. So I told him, here's what we'll do. We'll wait till 4th of July. There'll be a lot of firecrackers in Vegas. When you're shooting the torch on the roof, all that sparks, you can just like firecrackers.
Yeah.
Oh, great, great. And by that time, we'll get done with it in one night. We'll have the stuff in Chicago. We'll have our money, and we'll be back in Vegas. They'll never know we've done it. If they did, they could check. We don't have none.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So we got everything put together. I mean, we needed a lot of tools: settling tanks, torches, ladders, crowbars, picks, anything you think of. We needed to go through the ceiling, and then if we landed on a steel roof and the vault, we'd have to cut that open. So Ernie said, one of my guys that worked for us, he says, why don't we shut the alarm off? I said, Ernie, it's in the front of the building. If we shut it off, it's going to go to the company. And they're going to know that somebody's in there. They might have called the owner of the place. Just leave it on. They'll never know. Well, the jagoff goes and tells this guy, Sal Romano, whom I didn't like and never trusted. I said, Ernie, I don't like the guy. So I'm going to pass on a score.
Where did Sal even come from? Like
Sal was brought around by this guy, Pete Basil.
Okay.
And he was stealing with Pete. And the funny thing about this guy, Sal, is about a month before, I was visited in Vegas by 2 Chicago detectives. They came to my restaurant. I owned a restaurant, Italian restaurant there. And I had dinner with them, and they told me, they said, listen, Sal Romano has got to be working for the government. I said, what are you saying there? He said, we busted him at O'Hara Field with a load of furs. That's interstate. He bringing it from California, Nevada to Chicago. It's interstate. He said, the case was pulled from us. The government took it. It don't even show up in the record, nowhere, that this case exists. We're saying that this guy is working for the government. We're giving you that tip. I said, thank you. 2 detectives I knew from Chicago. So I told Tony that. You can't trust I'm telling you, Tony. These guys told me. Why would they tell me that?
Right.
These cops. So Tony had his eyes were wide open on this $1 million robbery, and I discussed this with him several times. I could pass on it, Tony. We could pass, do it another year. If I'm still out. But he was thinking I was going to go to jail anyway with these cases that were pending. So he didn't want to hear it. So we got all our radios, our descramblers and everything, and the Sal. And we let him drive the car over with the equipment. Then he was supposed to park the car in the street, and Larry was going to pick him up, and he would ride with Larry in a follow-up car in the streets, while the other 3 guys on the roof were going to be making a hole to make an entry. Sal disappears. Larry gets home, he says, I can't find him. I says, he's with the cops. I said, I'm telling you, any minute now they're going to close in on us. I know Sooner got off the CB radio with Larry. The blue light was on in back of me, a red light.
So Sal was totally an informant.
Sal was the foreman.
Yeah.
So I was so mad. I didn't get out of jail for 3 weeks because they didn't want to give me a bond because I was out on other bonds. That eventually I got the right judge I was able to reach, and he gave me a bond Cops were pissed off, really pissed off. So I get out. I told Tony, we got to kill this guy if we could find him. He's, I'll check and see where he's at, see if I could find him in a witness protection somewhere. So he tells me, he says, whenever he comes to town, there's a Greek guy that does catering, cooks special meals for witnesses. He says, I know the guy. He's going to let me know. I said, well, Tony, these marshals are with these guys 24/7 when they're testifying. They lock them in a room. How are you going to do it? He said, we'll go in there and kill the marshals. He said, are you out of your mind? We'll have every cop in the world looking for us. You can't do that.
Yeah.
He said, well, then there's no more I could say. So I was pissed. Needless to say, I was very angry with him. Because all of these cases, he wasn't coming up with his end of the money to get these guys out. It was me coming up with the money. So I said, we're going to move back to Chicago. So I moved back to Chicago with my wife and kids. So we're back in Chicago, but I still got to go to court here. I got permission from the courts, of course. So I come back the day before going to court for Bertha's, the furniture store, furniture robbery. And I meet Tony that night, and he said, where you staying? Because I had called him earlier, so I'm in town. So I told him, Woodridge Apartments on the second floor, next to her father, Elaine's father. He says, oh, okay, so we're talking, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, Tony, I got to go. I got to go to court in the morning. Come on, stick around a little longer. In that period of time, he made a phone call, a payphone. I don't think none of it. I go back to the place, meet her. Before I meet her, I'm walking up the stairs. I see a van pull in the parking lot. So I stand back and look. I see a guy jump out of the van. He runs this way. He's coming up the stairs at the other end. And he's hooded up. And I'm thinking, oh, what the fuck is going on there? Just happened to be there was a guy walking down that thing to go into his apartment, which was right next to the one I was staying at. And the guy shoots, bing, 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 bing. He shoots the guy, hits him 2 or 3 times. Don't even know who this guy was. The guy falls in a doorway. The guy continues running this way towards me. He don't see me yet. When he comes by me, I shoulder him. He flies over the rail, hits the ground, drops his gun, picks it up, jumps in the van, and they take off. So I go in the room. My wife says, did you hear all that shooting? I said, yeah, I seen the guy get shot next door. She says, do you think that was for you? I said, no. I said, be serious. She said, he kept you out all that while, didn't he? She said, I'm telling you, she said, I got a funny feeling. I should just jealous. So we go to sleep. About 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, the phone rings. It's Tony. She answers, yes. He says, is Frankie there? She says, yeah. He says, let me talk to him. So she cuffs the phone. Cuffs the phone and she says, I'm telling you, he's just trying to see if you're alive. I said, what's up? He said, man, I've been thinking about your court, you know. Why don't you come down here and meet me about it? I said, fuck you, I'm going to sleep. Yeah. I got 2 more hours of sleep. I'll talk to you after court. I might get a continuance. So she's pumping it into my head. I said, nah, you're dreaming. It just happened to be she was right. You put a contract out on me. How did I find that out? Well, when I finally got found guilty on the furniture store, the furniture, I should say, they locked me up. The FBI comes and visits me. I hadn't gotten sentenced yet or anything. Comes by and he says, it's my duty as a to inform you that there's a contract out on your life. I said, get the fuck out of here. I said, you're trying to make me roll. He says, look, I don't care what you do. There's a contract out on you. He says, you're liable to make bond this time again, which there is a possibility. I got to get an appeal bond. So that's what I was going to try for. So he leaves, and I'm sitting there thinking. So I call him back. I say, Charlie. His name was Charlie Parson. I said, come back over. Show me some proof other than your voice. Can you show me something? He said, I'll have so-and-so come over there. They'll put you out of the cell, and you could read some transcripts, and here's stuff on a recording. Yeah. So they had a conversation recorded of Tony and this guy, Joe Lombardo, in Chicago. And on the conversation, Joe's asking Tony, what the hell's going on over there? And Tony said, well, I can't control the guy. He's like a loose cannon, meaning me.
Yeah.
And he says, and I'm scared he's going to roll. So Joe tells him, well, you know what you got to do then? You got to clean your dirty laundry. That means kill me.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the shooting, the miss and all of that. You see how that all falls in? The guy, and I knocked him over the road.
He was going
all
for
that
you.
I put together in my head, and I go, this motherfucker. I grew up with this guy. He's trying to take the heat off him.
Yeah.
And so I says, well, okay, I'm ready. It took me about 20 years to get over it, what I'd done, because I wasn't raised to testify, to be an informant.
Right.
I wasn't an informant. An informant's a guy who runs around with a wire. That would be Sal Romano. I was a government witness. I was just testifying on what I'd done and what he told me to do. Not something I heard on with a wire on me. You know, I don't respect people like that. So the wind-up is they
Well, you didn't really set people up. You
no,
just...
that's an informant does that.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't respect them guys. Even the government don't respect them.
Really?
Yeah. They need them. They don't respect them. So then I rolled, and it took me a lot of years, and it took me probably, within that time, 1993, I was contacted by the FBI, and they said, I was out of the program, the witness protection program. I only spent 2 years in the witness protection program. I didn't like it. There wasn't enough money in it. I lived in the South. I didn't like living in the South. They didn't like me in the South because I'm a Yankee. It was really rough, you know, when you're in a program. You have to change your habits. It's hard. You hear my voice, you know, right away you know I'm somebody.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a gangster or something. So it was hard for me to conceal all of this. So I stood home a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a job. Very difficult because you're dropped in a place and, okay, make your life. Here's a driver's license, a social security number.
Can
Here's
I
your
ask you
birth
something?
certificate.
Okay, so the murder happened, or the murder that was supposed to be for you, your wife figured it out, and then when you got the tapes and stuff, what kind of just mental, emotional, I mean, because the decision that you're basically making at that time is to completely change your life. There's no going back after you've made, and these are people that, like, you've been through all these, I mean, even committing a murder, you know, those are intense situations to go through with people that they need.
And I'm betrayed.
Yeah, there has to be a level of loyalty.
Why I tell you, it hurt. It hurt. There was times that I considered suicide.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the cell waiting for transport, you know, because I hated myself.
Yeah, it's just gotta be like
fucking hated myself.
Over.
Because I couldn't face myself in the mirror. I looked and I just hated myself. And every time I had to sit on the stand and look at these guys that my friends, they were my friends, I would steal, kill for them. And I got to testify on these guys. I didn't want to testify on these guys. I just wanted to testify on Tony. But you can't pick and choose. So I had to testify on my crew of guys. It killed me.
Yeah.
It killed them. They couldn't even look at me.
Yeah.
We couldn't look at each other. So it took me maybe 25 years to really get over that, of what I'd done. And, you know, I made the right choice. As we sit here right now, I made the right choice by doing what I'd done. And I'm alive. It hasn't been easy because I have to be a legitimate person now.
Yeah.
So what I did out here in Las Vegas, as I opened up about 6 years ago, it was called a mob tours. But I never participated in it. I just drew money out of it because I give them information, places, locations, because it's a tour. So the business started going down. So I came up with this idea of me actually hosting it. And it's picked up considerable because now people know that I'm going to be physically on this bus with them. But anybody that's been on the bus with me, they love it. They love it. They sit there, they buy my books. They buy T-shirts, everything I got. I feel like a Jewish salesman. I sell my books. I sell both book signings, and I do book signings. I just did one at the Mob Museum here in Vegas, which they got my picture all over the wall in there too.
Here's a question that I know everybody's thinking. How can you talk about all this stuff now and be safe? How?
Well, everybody's dead. Everybody I was involved with, they're all murdered. And if they're not murdered, they died a natural death. There's only one guy that's alive that was my boss, but he's in a wheelchair. He's in a federal prison. They got him in maximum lockdown. He'll never see the light of day. And that was Joe Lombardo. Now, I have no more threats on the street. Mm-hmm. None at all. Actually, I'm very, very safe. If some guy decides to shoot me or kill me, it's only because maybe I had an argument with him, you know, for something else. But it wouldn't be by the outfit. It wouldn't be.
So where is the outfit?
There's no more.
It's just...
In Chicago?
It's just...
They're low level, not like they used to be. There's no more connections with the court systems.
Yeah, we didn't mention yet what ended up happening to Tony.
Well, what happened to Tony is when after I rolled and went to the witness protection program, Tony was on trial with me, and he had another trial for the skimming in the casinos. And his younger brother was sort of a cocky, arrogant little son of a bitch. And he was abusing people back in Chicago because Tony was his brother, and he threw that around. Of course, they all knew it. And they told Tony that Michael was causing a lot of problems. He needed to come to Chicago to straighten this out. And Tony knew that if he didn't come back to Chicago and straighten it out, they would kill his brother. And then he also knew that he might die too, but he had no choice. He had to come back with his brother. So he came back to go into this meeting with all the bosses, and they beat him to death, him and his brother. And then they threw him in a cornfield in Indiana, in a grave. And their bodies were discovered actually the next day. And that's what happened to Tony. They were both murdered, him and his brother.
That was in Casino.
He would have been better off going to jail in the case I was testifying about. He would have only got a 10-year sentence. He would have been home. His brother Michael would have been dead, but Tony would have been home. By fighting it and having this lawyer get him a continuance, he got him continued till he got murdered. So you see, sometimes when that door opens, you got to step in it, you know?
Yeah.
But he used to think, I ain't going to go to jail. I can beat this guy in court. Can't beat the government when they're on you. Can't beat them. First of all, the government don't indict you unless they got a slam dunk. They won't get the money to take you. They spend millions to put you in jail. They got to get it proof from the Attorney General.
Yeah.
If he sees it's a weak case, they say no. Won't give you the money. They got to shit can the case.
Well, I saw you in one interview saying that that when you had decided to be a witness, that you had to start. I mean, you had no one to trust at that point. You either had to
never trust anybody.
Right, but eventually you had to trust the government to some degree.
I had to trust the government. The first day I rolled, I didn't trust them, and then they introduced me to this guy. He don't like to be referred to this, and nor do I like to refer him to this. They call him a handler. That means he handled me. He don't consider himself a handler, nor do I. And I could tell by talking to this guy, he was so square and so honest. And anything I asked him to do for him, he would do. He wasn't kind to me. And I could see that I could trust this guy. As a matter of fact, today he's still my friend. I know his wife and kids. So I made the right choice with this guy, but it was very difficult.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't do that with any, because they were the enemy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're my friends. Metro was the only ones that I didn't keep friendly with, the guys that were the biggest threat to me. There's a few Metro guys that are still around right now. One of them is a nice guy. I get along with him. But he was just a surveillance guy. He never once put his hands on me, talked to me. He just used to watch me with binoculars.
Yeah.
So I have no ill feelings for him. All the rest are dead. Everybody's died except one agent.
Wow.
And one Metro cop. I've buried them all, even the judges.
But not literally buried them,
Not literally.
like.
And a lot of them died terrible deaths with sicknesses.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I'm on this earth right now. I don't know what it is, but there's a purpose.
Well, I think this is a good actual place because I wanted to get there with you. Yeah, where have you thought? Have you come up with where that is? Like where the moral of your story might be?
I don't have any idea. So I'm still searching.
Yeah.
I'm the only one left. I'm an historian.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy left. Maybe that's the reason why I'm still there. I spread the word because so many people are interested in the syndicate, the mafia, the outfit. I'm the only living soul out of Chicago that could actually sit there, and I'm second generation. Mm-hmm. That's big.
Yeah.
Third generation is nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's big, but everybody makes me believe it's big. I'm just me.
Yeah.
But I know everything. Everything about everybody.
Well, and that's, I mean, it's a fascinating outfit, for lack of a better word, you know, and there is something, and I do think that there's a lot of social commentary in it. I think there is a lot of history. I think there's a lot of good things to learn, maybe not definitely go off and kill people, and
nobody's supposed to kill anybody.
Yeah.
But let me put it like this: when you get drafted into the military,
right,
it's your job to kill people.
Yep.
You don't know who you're killing.
Yeah.
They got kids too. These people you're killing.
So if you hadn't had the situations that you had growing up, do you think you would have? What else would you have maybe done?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that question because I don't know. It depends on what neighborhood I grew up in. The environment.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was fascinating talking to you and a fun intro to Vegas for sure.
You have a good time now. Are you leaving soon?
No, I just got here. I'm leaving Saturday.
Baby.
Thank you, Frank. All right. So there you have it, folks. That was my introduction to Las Vegas. I've never been there before, and within hours of getting off the plane, I was sitting there talking to Frank Culata. Pretty interesting way to spend your first few hours in Vegas. It was great. Thank you again to Frank for spending time with me and the Talented Bitches radio listeners. I encourage all of you to look into Frank's books, and absolutely, if you're going to Vegas, be sure to check out his tours, and we will see you next time, bitches. Live in love.